Welcome, SENS Talk.
Here comes Sanders and a pass across. He scores! He bats it in! Tim Stutzler wins it for Ottawa. Triple Grant is going to put the finishing touches on an Ottawa win. See you later. Go Sens, go.
Welcome to SENS Talk. My name is Brandon Plant, and I am your host tonight. The Ottawa Senators look to get back on track in Beantown as they take on the Boston Bruins in a massive game for multiple reasons. Firstly, Ottawa on the road this year have lost 4 straight games. They are 1-5-0 on the road this year. And let's just say the Sens are not exactly road darlings. Last year they got like 3 points out of a possible 34 on the road. So let's just say the Ottawa Senators have struggled mightily as of late on the road. Now, on top of all of that, the Sens have struggled over the last few years big time in November. Since 2021, the Ottawa Senators going into this game are 10-28-1 in the month of November. Obviously, if you're starting off your year at like 300 hockey, you're going to be out of the playoffs before the playoff race even begins. The Ottawa Senators desperately have to avoid that scenario this year if they want to be competitive in a very, very competitive Eastern and more so Atlantic division. Now, Ottawa is 6-7-0 going into this game, so Ottawa is still in there. You know, they're still hovering around 500, but this is a divisional game against the Boston Bruins. You got to win these ones, especially when the standings right now are so close, and when other teams like Boston, Buffalo, these teams are winning and they're kind of keeping pace with one another. We don't want to kind of fall out of that group. Now, obviously, we're playing Boston, which means, of course, this is the return of Linus Ullmark to Boston. He got a nice standing ovation when he was welcomed back in the first period of play, and let's just say Linus Ullmark put on a Linus Ullmark performance tonight. We'll save that for the end of the video, though. He had a pretty solid game, made some big stops, especially in some extra time, and I'll just leave it at that for now. But a nice little standing ovation there for Linus Ullmark, which is great to see. Mark Haslick, his first game against the Sens, he had a couple of nice chances. He's actually been pretty solid for Boston so far this year, and that's great to see. He, it's great to see that he, in a change of scenery, has really, taken the next step in his career, and I wish him nothing but the best. I always thought he was a solid fourth-line center, and I'm glad to see things are working out for him in Boston. Obviously, Korpisalo and Forsberg, they're, former friends as well, like Ullmark and Swayman. They did a tap on the pads, nothing crazy. Well, of course, Linus Ullmark and Swayman are famous for their goalie hug that they did with one another after they, whoever won the game, they do a crazy hug, as you all know, I'm sure. So they replicated that, of course, before the game today. And that's awesome to see a couple of friends, seeing each other before what was probably a very weird experience for both of them, facing off against one another. But that was cool to see, and more importantly, great to see the Boston fans really welcome back Ullmark with open arms. Now, some lineup notes. Jacob Bernard-Docker remains out of the lineup. Free my boy JBD. Unbelievable. I don't get it. I don't get it. He's a young defenseman. He is not perfect by any means, but that pairing with Clevin has been certainly better than the pairing of Hamnick and Clevin. And of course, by the way, that means Hamnick stays in the lineup. I really don't get it, to be honest with you, again, especially after a loss in the last game. I thought they would probably shake things up there on the D-core, but they didn't. And once again, it wasn't like Hamnick was a negative factor for the Ottawa Senators tonight. He didn't really stick out to me one way or the other. Ottawa in general was not great at times defensively. Wasn't just Hamnick. But I think when you got a young guy like that who's more than earned ice time, it doesn't really make much sense when there's a guy, and Mark Mathot said this, he said it so well. Hamnick is going to be gone within the year. JBD should be here for at least a few more years if everything works out. It doesn't make sense to not play your young guy and get him some reps. But anyways, he remains out. While Shane Pinto also does not play today, it was seen as a very high possibility he would return to the lineup tonight. That was not the case. He will likely, in my opinion, anyways, return on Tuesday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, by the way, Tim Stutzler and Brady Tkachuk were split up for this game as Stutzler went to the second line and Norris centered the first line. Kind of worked, I'm not going to lie, because to the first period we go, and you know how I just mentioned Josh Norris? Well, let's talk about Josh Norris, one-time goal, 8 seconds left in the first period of play, and Ottawa takes the 1-0 lead off a power play. One-time goal from Josh Norris. It's so great to see the one-timer return from Josh Scoris, the Noof. bar down goal to make it 1-0 after 20 minutes of play. An unbelievable pass there from Brady Tkachuk as well to center Josh Norris right on the right hash mark, or just right above the right hash mark, to give Ottawa the 1-0 lead after 20 minutes of play. Linus Ullmark made some key stops in that period, and it was pretty even, I'm not going to lie, other than faceoffs where Ottawa was winning like 65, 66% of the faceoffs, something absurd. It was a pretty even opening period. Shots were relatively the same, like 8-7, so nothing screams Ottawa is going to dominate. We'll get to the third period soon, and that will change, but Ullmark was not busy for later portions of the game, but that period certainly was, and it was great to see Norris, a one-time goal. I had Alex Adams on the show the other day of Sportsnet, and we were kind of talking about Norris and that reluctancy to shoot on the one-time. Maybe it was his shoulder, I don't know, but it was great to see he pulled that one off, and hopefully that continues. That was his first point in the last 5 games. To the second period we go, and not a great start for Ottawa here, as the Boston Bruins, a few minutes in, erase the lead to tie things at 1. It's Pavel Zacha from just outside of the crease. He backhands it past Ullmark out front to tie it up at 1. The Sens could not clear the puck on multiple opportunities on that shift, which led to the goal, and that will happen 15 seconds later. The Bruins, they take the lead. It's 2-1. Artem Zub, I love him. Not going to do the Zub here, though, because he turns it over. Batherson's not along the boards there either. He's kind of trailing through the middle for some reason. The Sens can't recover. Of course, they're scrambling after that. Marchand on the one-timer puts it past Ullmark to give the Bruins their first lead of the night. 15 seconds after they tied it, they now have the lead, and it's crazy. You know, Alex Adams put out a great tweet here, and I'll put it on the screen for you guys, where Ottawa this year has had some real issues collapsing. This is like the 5th or 6th time Ottawa has given up goals in bunches. According to Alex Adams, you know, of course, tonight against Boston, 2 goals in 15. Against the Islanders, 2 goals in under 3. Buffalo, same thing, 2 goals in 16. Vegas, 2 goals in 21 seconds and a minute. Colorado in about 90 seconds. And then against the Devils in just under 4. I cannot explain it other than being mentally weak. But it's not about how you give up goals in bunches and about how, you get rattled, which they certainly do. The Sens clearly can get rattled. And that definitely comes with a bit of mental weakness in terms of, the immaturity in the room. It's still a young team. They have some veterans, but it's still overall a very young team. And you can see that when things like this happen. But this is also a team that is very resilient. We've seen that all year. And, you couldn't say that in the past. But this year, especially when Ottawa gets on their heels and they get rattled and they give up goals in bunches, they often do respond and push back. And they did. They pushed back in that second period of play. But the Bruins would keep that lead until the final couple of minutes, where, thank goodness, it's a me, Amadio. Ottawa would tie it. Michael Amadio, it's a me, Amadio. His first as an Ottawa Senator. With a couple minutes left, he walks in, beats Jeremy Swayman, blocker side, to tie things up at 2-2. That's probably one Swayman wants back. But that was a nice play there from Noah Gregor. A nice little sneaky play, to be honest with you. A nice setup play. And then, more importantly, he split the defense. It kind of created some commotion out front. I don't think necessarily he was screening Swayman, but I think when he split the D, I think one of the defensemen partially screened him, or just the commotion out front, multiple bodies moving, with the guy coming in, might have distracted him as well. But either way, great play there from Gregor to split the D, creates a partial screen, and gives Amadio a great opportunity to put it in. And of course he does. He cashes it home as Ottawa ties it at 2. That's Amadio's first goal as an Ottawa Senator. His first, of course, in, 14 games now with Ottawa. It's a huge one. It's 2-2 going to the third period of play. And again, that's my point, where Ottawa, they get rattled. They can definitely be mentally weak at times. But you also see this with Ottawa Senators, and you've seen it all year, where, when they're on their heels and things look bleak, they find a way to battle and get right back into it. They do so here with a massive goal. We go to the third period of play, and Linus Ullmark in the second period was fine. Linus Ullmark in this third period was literally perfect because he didn't have to face a shot. The third period, Ottawa would get some offense, and going into the third period, this was the second time only this year, Ottawa entered the third period tied. In 14 games, this only happened twice, tonight and against the Los Angeles Kings in that wild 8-7 victory. Seems like forever ago at this point. It was only a few weeks ago. But again, back to my point about Linus Ullmark, the Bruins did not register a single shot all period. Ottawa outshot the Bruins 12-0. We would need overtime though. And I'm not going to lie, when we had to go to overtime, I was very nervous. Ottawa, this is a game where they have to win. This is a game where they should win because, you're out shooting the opponent 12-0. They didn't have a shot for over 25 minutes, essentially, going back to the second period of play. And Ullmark, again, he was perfect, but you never know, right? That first shot, he's rusty. He hasn't faced any shots in nearly an hour. You never know. There could be a weak one or a weird one in overtime that ends it for Ottawa in sudden death. And most importantly, we've seen historically what happens to Ottawa when they don't give up shots to the Boston Bruins. Cough, cough, 2017 playoffs. You probably, if you're a longtime Sens fan, gets that one. That one didn't work out for Ottawa, but let's just say things worked out for Ottawa tonight. Sens fans, take a big breath as we go to overtime. And Linus Ullmark early on with a huge stop. My goodness. Forget all those worries about him being rusty and cold. What a stop there on the one time. And Ottawa goes back the other way. And of course, it's the captain, El Capitano, Brady Tkachuk, wins it in overtime. And Ottawa takes down the Boston Bruins 3-2 in overtime. A massive, massive victory. A massive 2 points for Ottawa as they take down the Bruins in Beantown. Brady Tkachuk, El Capitano, blocker side. Ottawa wins 3-2 in overtime. My goodness. I am out of breath even thinking about it. This was such a crazy game because right off the bat, both teams were, as I mentioned already in this video, very even game. Very physical as well. A lot of big hits. Giroux took a couple big hits as well. There was a lot of hits being thrown around. But after that third period, as already mentioned, I was really, really nervous. That felt like a classic Sens game where they should have earned the point, but they were going to lose it in the most stupid of ways. And that would have been, of course, giving up one shot and one goal in the third period or overtime. Luckily, though, Brady Tkachuk, the captain, takes care of business in Beantown. Of course, he's familiar with the area, played there at Boston U. So great to see. And most importantly, Ottawa is back to 500. Everyone, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We won a game on the road, which is pretty crazy to me, in a tough building like in Boston. Ottawa's back to 500 as well, and maybe, just maybe, that sequence of Ullmark with that huge stop to Brady Tkachuk going back the other way and putting it home to take the 2 points, to take that extra point away from Boston. Maybe, just maybe, that's the turning point on the season that we needed. We'll see. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic. I'm a Sens fan, if you couldn't tell. Maybe I'm a little biased. But that felt like a turning point to me. And it was great to see, obviously, Ullmark getting that win, in his return to Boston. He only faced like 16 shots, which is absurd. That's crazy. And, it was normal. He faced like 15 shots going to the third period. So everything seemed normal until it didn't. But just because of the low shot count, maybe the save percentage a little wonky. Of course, 2 goals. But he was fantastic. Can't blame him for either of those goals. And again, you could just see the way they reacted with him after the game, the huge hugs he had at center ice to celebrate that win. That one has to mean a lot for Ullmark. And it means a lot for this team as well because they can really build off this, build some momentum, and take on the Leafs on Tuesday, and hopefully start to get some wins and get back above 500. Again, you lost to Buffalo, you lost to the Islanders, you beat Boston, you got to beat Toronto now too because one, you should win these games. You got to win these games, especially against Atlantic Division teams. But 2, you want to keep pace as well. I always say it, Ottawa has to just do their thing and take care of business and win as many games as they can, and everything will work out. But the emphasis has to be there, especially against Atlantic Divisional rivals, who are all ahead of you right now in the standings. So with that, a massive win. We'll see what happens on Tuesday when Ottawa takes on the Toronto Maple Leafs. But my goodness, that was a fun one to watch, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing like a Sens OT GWG by Brady Tkachuk, who has like 8 overtime winners now in his NHL career. Talk about clutch from the captain. So with that, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below as always. I'll see you all soon. Go Sens, go.